I'm going to highlight the top 4 coaches in the Big Ten. I'm going to tell you what's working and what's not working. And I'm going to tell you why I'm doing that today. Lockdown Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I am Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We always appreciate it. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. These days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. All right, coach speak today. I want to talk about 4 coaches that I think are the best in the league. Lots of positives and negatives going everywhere about all these guys. I'm going to do a deep dive on this and explain where I'm coming from here today. Also, some Big Ten Heisman talk. JJ McCarthy, stock probably going down. Of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. going through the roof. Explain his real chances and our Tuesday tweets. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe down below real quick, real easy. It's free. And follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcasts. That way, you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Look, there have been a lot of Big Ten coaches in the news lately. There always is. It's part of the deal. A lot of criticisms, too. So I've picked who I think are the top 4 coaches in the league. I'll tell you right now. I think it's Jim Harbaugh. I think it's Ryan Day. I think it's Kirk Ferentz. And I think it's James Franklin. Some of you may be going, what? What are you talking about? Because there are some that are controversial in there, for sure. A lot of criticism for James Franklin for how things are going. And guys winning 10 games a year, but he can't get through the glass ceiling. A lot of people critical of him. Kirk Ferentz has been hearing it for years. People don't like his style, but he wins games. Right now, Ryan Day, you have to say, is on cruise control. Everything's happy with Ryan Day. He's just going along winning games. Got no problems. Jim Harbaugh has built an empire at Michigan, and people are chipping away at the foundation. Suspensions, everything. So I want to talk about these 4 coaches in particular today. And tell you what's working and what's not with these guys. A lot of interesting things with all of these. They all have very interesting storylines this season, but it's worth a look a little closer. You know, yesterday we talked at length about whether Penn State's James Franklin was outcoached by Coachless Michigan team. Go back and check out the podcast. A lot of you did. If you didn't, it's the previous one to this here on Locked On Big Ten. There's no need to rehash all of that here. But there are some things we do want to compare and contrast with some of these teams. So we'll start with James Franklin, since he was in the news quite a bit here over the past couple of days. And he fired his offensive coordinator, Mike Yurcich, after the Michigan game. You know, in 10 years, Franklin has had 5 offensive coordinators, 3 of them fired. And he just can't quite get it going offensively. Running back Juwan Cedar takes over. Running backs coach Juwan Cedar and tight ends coach Ty Hawley. He takes over. He is a co-offensive coordinator. Those 2 together. Look, I can't stress enough that this is a very, very good team, a very good coach, and a good program at Penn State. It's just not getting through that glass ceiling I've been talking about. Fans are ready to take that step forward. 10-2 is not good enough for them. They want 11-1. They want 12-0, and they want to be competing for national championships and Big Ten championships. But in order to do that, Penn State has to at least split with Michigan and Ohio State, and they haven't been able to do that recently. Been swept the last 2 years here with a good enough team to maybe do something. They just haven't been able to beat those guys. And the fan base is getting a little restless at Penn State. Now, Franklin, in his post-game news conference, for example, after Saturday's game, really stressed the emphasis of that turnover. Drew Aller with the fumble, and how that was the turning point in the game. And it may have been. I mean, we all watched it. But I thought it was so early in the game, and the game was so close that it could have been overcome. I wouldn't say that was a make-or-break moment in that game. I don't think it was a death blow. And Drew Aller's taking care of the football all season long. But he did throw a couple of passes to like nobody. Even that intentional grounding on a flea flicker was odd, really odd. I don't know if he's seeing ghosts or what, but you could tell the 19-year-old has been threatened within an inch of his football life to not turn the ball over. And I think it's gone too far in that direction. As I think he's become timid now. I think he's playing not to lose instead of to win. I think he's in his own head. I think he doubts himself right now. And he's become so ineffective downfield. The defenses know it. They're making adjustments. They're creeping in closer to the line of scrimmage. And that doesn't help Nicholas Singleton or Katron Allen at all. So somebody's got to get a hold of him and say, man, be free. Let it rip a little bit or something. Because at the beginning of the year, it was Drew Aller this and Drew Aller that. And Drew Aller's better than JJ McCarthy and everything. Everybody was stock was high on Drew Aller. Now it's like, man, what's happened? I think it may be a case of overcoaching here. And combine that with Penn State's failure to go vertical game in and game out. I don't know if that's play calling. I don't know if that was an offensive coordinator problem that we just fixed. Maybe it's a James Franklin problem. Maybe it's a Yursich problem. Well, they got rid of Yursich, so we'll see. But the play calling does seem conservative. And I think it's also because Penn State doesn't have a speedy wide receiver to take the top off defenses and stretch them out a little bit. So it's a lot of questions. I don't know if changing the offensive coordinator fixes that here in the last 2 weeks of the season or we'll get different results, but we'll see. And if you think I'm being too hard on Franklin, look, I'll repeat. He is a good coach in charge of a team that just can't break through that glass ceiling. A lot of people would trade places with him and that team and their record. So while Drew Aller has the pressure of the world on his shoulders, let's take a look at another situation. How about over at Iowa and Kirk Ferentz? I don't know if you saw him over the weekend after their 22-0 win over Rutgers. And again, no offense has been criticized more in the country than Iowa, right? And yet at the same time, like Iowa people would kill to have Penn State's offense. Kill, absolutely. They would love to have that offense. So, but they've gotten a lot of criticism both before and after Deacon Hill came in for the injured Cade McNamara. And I thought after the game on the post game, Kirk Ferentz had some pretty interesting comments. And he said, look, we knew when Deacon Hill came in, we knew he didn't have a lot of experience. And we also know you can't microwave the process. It takes time. I thought that was a pretty wise statement by Kirk Ferentz. The guy's been a head coach for 25 years. By the way, Iowa is now 8-2 overall. They got a 2-game lead over 5 other teams in the division, and they've at least clinched the tie for the Big Ten West title just through perseverance, staying after it. Now, you tell me, if you're a young quarterback, would you want to play for a guy like that? I would. Although I would say, get me some receivers, man. I mean, just like Penn State, get me some receivers, get me some weapons. But yeah, I'd play for a guy like that. Of course, the other two coaches we want to highlight here are the obvious ones: Ohio State's Ryan Day and Michigan's Jim Harbaugh. And look, Ryan Day, he's doing things the way that good coaches have been doing them for a long time. Remember that comment that Jim Harbaugh made about him 5 years ago? He said, some people are born on third base and think they've hit a triple. Yes, he did inherit a loaded Urban Meyer program. But you know what? Like I just said, that was 5 years ago. That was a long, long time ago. And, he's the pinch runner that's kept the inning going. It's been 5 years. He's won 90% of his games. And in those 5 years, that means these are his kids, his recruits, his system. And he has continued to bring in 4- and 5-star players, and he coaches them up. That's all to his credit. And he seems to be a bit of a quarterback whisperer as well. I mean, Kyle McCord, let's face it, at the beginning, he was no CJ Stroud or Justin Fields. And he isn't now either, but he is a lot better than he was 2 months ago. I mean, they started off this season kind of a quarterback conundrum, controversy, whatever. Devin Brown and Kyle McCord. McCord got the job, still looked shaky for a week or two, but now it looks good. It looks really good. And then, of course, there's Jim Harbaugh, maybe the most interesting coach in the entire Big Ten. A lot going on. And he's created a system there where he's just a throwback to the days of Bo Schembechler's big offensive lineman and power running game. But he's also added the finesse of a quarterback like JJ McCarthy, and they only seem to maximize his use when they need him. They just can win in any possible way, and that defense is stifling. And they might very well be the best team in the entire country. But Harbaugh has also done something that has been more and more evident in the 4 games that he has not coached Michigan because he was suspended. Because someone once told me, you don't have a system in place until you know that system can run without you. Whether you're gone for an hour, a day, a week, whatever the case may be, does the system work flawlessly when you're not there, the system that you set up? And look, he's 4-0. They're 4-0 without him on these games. He's been suspended, and he's got his Michigan football team dialed in. And I think that's an asset to him and everything that he has put together. No matter what you think about him or the Spygate or whatever the case may be, he's got a system in place, and that's a credit to him. So I'm curious, as you're listening to all this, I mean, who would you rather have as your coach? Now, if you have an allegiance to a certain team, if you're a Buckeye fan, well, Ryan Day's your guy. And if Michigan's your team, Jim Harbaugh is your guy. I've heard a lot of you Iowa people criticize Kirk Ferentz, but now you're coming around like, hey, let's just embrace it. This is who we are. This is what we do, and we win games, right? James Franklin's in a tough spot right now, but he's winning. But people are, it's not enough to satisfy them. So it's a lot. It's very interesting. But if you want to tell me what you think about any of this, love to hear from you on Twitter, X, @TalkBig10, number 10. Also, you can hit me up on the YouTube video comments as well. We'll get to all of that. Also, Marvin Harrison Jr., he can catch a lot of footballs. He can catch a lot of touchdowns. Can he catch the Heisman Trophy, being a wide receiver and all? We'll talk about that. Talk about JJ McCarthy, a little Big Ten Heisman talk. Oh, and Jim Harbaugh's plans for the hearing on Friday. All that coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. Jay's case is something I want to tell you about. It is Jay's case. It provides like 5 antibiotics to your door. And one particular example, I have them right here. And this was mailed to me, right? Just got them right there. And I'm showing it on video. If you're watching on video only, 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use in case you can't get them in an emergency. I live in a hurricane area. Supply chains get cut down from time to time. Pandemics do the same thing. But also, you can get all sorts of medications, like over 50 medications. Get a year's supply. And it even includes ED medications. Cialis, Viagra, Rebatio. All you have to do is go online at jacemedical.com and receive your 12-month supply of your daily medication. And you just need to remember to use the promo code Locked On at checkout for a discount as well. And all it takes is you fill out a simple online form. In some cases, you jump on with a quick call with some board-certified physicians. And by the way, you get ongoing care from those physicians on any treatment-related questions. This is doctor-created and doctor-recommended, and it is very easy. So you don't, get an emergency coming up later on, or if you just want to know that you're taken care of, get yourself a Jace case. Go to jacemedical.com and enter the code Locked On at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code Locked On at JASEmedical.com. That's jacemedical.com. So later tonight, we got the, depending on when you watch this or listen to this, Tuesday night, we've got the latest college football polls coming out. We'll see if there's any movement this week. This will be the 3rd poll to be released. And the latest reaction right here on this podcast as to how it affects our Big Ten teams that we like to follow. And also, we'll talk about some other things here on the calendar this week. Friday is the hearing for Jim Harbaugh. He said on Monday that he will attend in person that hearing on Friday, where a judge is going to listen to arguments on whether to grant the restraining order that Michigan is seeking to nullify the Big Ten Conference's 3-game suspension, 1 game already served already for their football coach for the Spygate scandal under the league's sportsmanship clause. Harbaugh says he plans on speaking at the hearing, and he's looking forward to due process. Harbaugh also indicated that he learned about the suspension while he was on the airplane to Penn State with the team. Found an in-flight. Somebody handed him a phone and said, here, this is what's on social media right now. He also said that athletic director Ward Manuel found out the same way on that flight and was pretty hot under the collar to have learned about it on social media instead of directly from the Big Ten. And I don't blame him for that. That's small time by the commissioner's office. Should have let them know in person before they let anybody else know. Even if they're on a flight, they're reachable with Wi-Fi. And now with this hearing going on Friday at 9 a.m., I'm sitting here trying to do the math. I don't know how long these things last. I've never been in a hearing before. I only watch them on TV. As far as, dramas or something. I don't know how long this takes in real life. So I got to think. So the hearing's at 9. I'm assuming that the Michigan football team has a flight around 1 o'clock, chartered flight, of course. They can delay it if they want to Maryland. They're on the road at Maryland. And who knows? Maybe Harbaugh finds out he can coach and gets on that plane. Maybe he finds out he can't coach and stays home while his team takes off again. And I was thinking earlier about Maryland. And look, there's no good time to play Michigan, like ever. I can think of 2 times. Maybe the first game of the season, maybe people are rusty, still trying to figure things out. Or maybe in this spot, sandwiched in between Michigan's road game at Penn State. Now they got to play another road game to go to Maryland, and they're going to be looking ahead, thinking in their minds they get Ohio State the week after that. Sandwiched in between Penn State and Ohio State might be the best place on the schedule to take on Michigan in a kind of a look ahead space or whatever, maybe a hangover from the week before. Who knows? Look, Michigan's probably still going to win this football game against Maryland, but if you want to find some silver lining, maybe Maryland's got them at the right time, and who knows? Maybe they'll be lucky. All right, let's talk about the Heisman Trophy and how it pertains to a couple of players of the Big Ten. Look, certainly this is an award that now favors quarterbacks. It didn't always used to be that way, but it is now. And certainly Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. continues to climb up this list of hopefuls. He's had another amazing stat line against Michigan State again. Not only did he catch 2 touchdowns in this game, but he also ran for another. First time he's ever done that. Putting together a little bit of a resume, right? He can do this. He can run. He can catch. So, and he did it on national TV on primetime. So a lot of people saw it. I think that's good for him. You know, this surprised me. He became the first Buckeyes receiver to accumulate 2 1,000-yard receiving seasons. I was a little bit surprised by that. Are you? Like, I'm thinking all the great wide receivers they had at Ohio State, he's the first one to get 1,000 yards receiving twice. I did a spot check. I didn't go back and check everybody, but I thought, Chris Olave? Really? He had like 11 100-yard games in his career. Never topped over 1,000 yards in a season. Had 936 his last year there and 2,700 for his career, but never back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Michael Thomas, another one. I look back at 2014. He had 799 yards receiving, and that was including a bowl game. But back to Marvin Harrison for a moment. Look, his stats are amazing. Will he be penalized because he's on the top-ranked team, or are they the top-ranked team at Ohio State because they have Marvin Harrison Jr.? Look, wide receivers, we know, have to go above and beyond to leapfrog these quarterbacks. And there's a lot of quarterbacks to consider this year in the Heisman race. And basically, he'll need a massive statistical day against Michigan on national TV to seriously be in the mix, right? For the top spot. I mean, I'm talking like 14 catches, 190 yards, 3 touchdowns, that kind of deal. Maybe throwing a punt return, even though he doesn't. Speaking of Big Ten players, in the Heisman race, we've talked at length of how voters will probably overlook JJ McCarthy this year as well and look at his stats and then just ignore them. And I mean, he's remarkable. He completes 75% of his passes, but when you compare him to the Michael Penixes and the Bo Nix and the Jane Daniels or Jordan Travis, look, even though McCarthy does a lot of things well, his team up till now is undefeated. He completes 3/4 of his passes. His cumulative stats don't even stack up to those other guys I just mentioned. Now, early in the season, he wasn't playing 4 quarters. Michigan would have a wrap on the game by halftime, and they would pull him, and he wouldn't get additional stats. And they even proved their point about how they can play however they want at Penn State when they don't even throw the ball in the second half. Not figuratively, literally, did not throw a pass in the second half. 32 straight runs in that ball game. And that was against the second-ranked running defense in the country, by the way. So his stats were pretty light that day. It's 7 of 8 for 60 yards, and then he ran for 34 more, and that's it. Somebody will look at that and go, man, I'm not voting for that guy. That's not a big game. So it's just how it goes. But, yeah, I would Marvin Harrison, I think right now, for the Big Ten, is your clubhouse leader with the person with the best chance to do it. Hey, I definitely want to take a moment to thank everybody for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. You everydayers, totally appreciate you very, very much. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask everybody to subscribe down below. I think because of you, we've picked up like 700 new subscribers in the last 4 weeks. It's been incredible. Thank you. If you haven't done it yet, please do it. Click it on, subscribe, and that's on YouTube or however you're watching or listening to this podcast. Don't forget you can share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. We would really, really appreciate it. It helps us out so much. Also, programming note on Fridays from 11 a.m. to noon Eastern, we have the live Locked On College Football Kickoff live show. I don't host it. I just contribute to it, but it's a good show. You can check it out. And if you miss it live at 11, it's on tape on this channel, Locked On Big Ten. So anyway, we're going to have fun in this final segment. I always like to do this on Tuesdays. It's called Tuesday Tweets. I find things that are usually amusing to me that I like to share with you. Some are serious. Most are amusing. Good for a good laugh. We'll see if yours made the cut. All that's coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. You know, a football coach has to put together a team, a roster. All the players have to fit together with good chemistry. Same thing happens in your office, your small office, if you will, small businesses. And when it comes time to hire somebody, it's a big decision. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. You post your job, you add the job post and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile. Spread the word that you're hiring to everybody. That's the first part. Get the word out. And then they have simple tools like screening questions, making it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and ultimately hire, because that's the name of the game here. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's have some fun with our Tuesday tweets and get it out there. And let's see here. We are going to put them up here full screen so you can take a look at them and get a better look at these as well. So this is from @HeavensFX, and this is a picture, third quarter, of a 54-yard pass play for Miami, or for Iowa. It is Iowa versus Rutgers. Deacon Hill, a 54-yard pass to Zach Ortworth. This almost never happens. In fact, it says, I may have dozed off and dreamt this. Iowa, a 54-yard pass. You know, Iowa had 400 yards of offense in that game against Rutgers and shut them out. You talk about complimentary football. Good job. Here is one from Santa Ono, the president of Michigan. Countless members of the University of Michigan family have reached out to me over the weekend, and I want to express my appreciation. Like any community, we face our share of challenges and adversity. There have been many such moments in our history, but as our team showed so clearly yesterday, we will respond to any challenge head on with a conviction to do better and to emerge even stronger. Go Blue. That was on Sunday, right? The day after the game. Here is Manny Diaz, the defensive coordinator for Penn State, and he was having some fun on social media, doing signals and signs, of course, that Michigan has been allegedly stealing. And this is from @Blue90 or Blue by 90, @Blue by 90. He says Manny Diaz is now 0-2 versus Michigan. Hashtag go blue. Yeah, they didn't like it when Manny started having fun with that signal stuff. In fact, here's another one @College Sports tweeting out a picture of Blake Corum in the locker room afterward. He was also doing the Manny Diaz hand signals, kind of clapping back at him a little bit here. And they didn't like that. He was also doing it after he scored a touchdown. I don't know if you saw that as well. Here is Blake Corum as well in the post-game conference from at Ballas_Wolverine. It says Warrior, and quoted Corum as saying, "We did it for Coach Harbaugh." Yeah, that's blood. He got gashed right in between the eyebrows, and it ran down his nose all day. I think he said, "Leave it. I look good." Does. Here is from at Iowa Awesome. He says that was win number 194 for Kirk Ferentz in Iowa when they beat Rutgers. And yes, 194. That ties him with Bo Schembechler, third most wins in Big Ten history. That in addition to securing at least a tie for the Big Ten West. It was a big day for Kirk Ferentz. He got emotional afterward. He absolutely did. Here is from at Ali Berube. And this is JJ McCarthy and Drew Aller hugging after the game. What a moment post-game between the quarterbacks. That was a cool moment. That was. Here is from at Swanky Wolverine. It's a doctored up picture of Jim Harbaugh laughing, pointing at the TV, got the 2 championship rings on one hand, got a cigarette and a brewski in the other with his legs kicked up. Obviously Photoshop, but nevertheless, Jim Harbaugh watching that Michigan touchdown from the hotel. Go Blue. Pretty good. This is somebody that doesn't like Michigan. This is from at Buckeye Brian. Desmond Howard, you don't look like yourself today. Have a snack. It is a Snickers bar. You've all seen the Snickers commercials. When you don't look yourself or don't feel yourself, you eat a Snickers and everything's fine, except it says Cheaters instead of the Snickers. And there's a can of Michigan Wolverine tears to drink as well. All right. More along that lines. This is from at Heather. It's a picture of a Buckeye mascot chilling, sitting in a backyard in a chair, brewski in one hand, cigar in another. Me watching the biggest college football scandal in history unfold. All right. And I think that is it. Yep, that is it. All right, that is it for our Tuesday tweets. Always love that. It's one of my favorite segments of the week. So thanks for checking that out. See, if you tweet at me something cool like that, I'll put it on here on the podcast. Talk about you. Speaking of this podcast, there's many ways for you to interact with me at Twitter, at Talk Big Ten, or X, whatever we want to call it, with the number 10. You can also find our website, talkbig10.com, with the number 10, Talk Big Ten. And of course, you can leave me a comment here on YouTube as well. Always appreciate that. If you haven't yet, please subscribe before you leave. At the bottom here, it's a quick click and you're in. Doesn't cost you a thing. You can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. And to get the latest episode of Lockdown Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Tomorrow, all the latest with Big Ten. We are a day closer. We'll have some analysis on the college football playoff poll of the Big Ten teams, and a day closer to the weekend, the next to last weekend of the regular season of the football season. Can you believe it? It's unbelievable. Going to invite you to check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast for the latest on everything else going on in sports. Have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you, as always, for checking us out. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.